your time. I'm not in a rush.
All right, can they see me or what?
Yeah, I think so. Guys, you can see sound. Everything's kosher. Everything's good. I think so.
Okay, you got this. All right.
You know, we
Second.
finally did
All right,
it.
you can put me on. All right. Let's go.
How are you doing?
Doing good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did you work at 6 a.m. today?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I saw your stream yesterday. I times two'd it and watched it today so we could talk a little bit. And I know we're gonna discuss evil, whatever that means. But also, I thought your video was interesting about stalking. That isn't really stalking.
Yeah, I heard you say that. And I also heard you say that you are so over the whole gender thing, which I think is the solution, by the way.
Yeah.
But like the stories you tell about yourself, excuse me, I got a tickle in my throat. Wonder how much this is gonna fuck up the stream. Oh man.
Not at all.
So stories that you tell about yourself, like I did so much similar stuff to you as a fucking youngin, like at early 20s and shit, but it got received very different. And so that for me is very real distinction.
Yeah,
Like-
because you just turned 30.
I did. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Well, I guess. Thank you. I drop this piece of metal I touch this piece of metal every stream, and I drop it every stream. So
There you go. Well, tell me, what was it? Because I'm actually curious, more than anything, to talk about those gender differences. Do you feel like when you say you did the same things as me, like ran around and had like BDSM threesomes? Is that what you're saying?
no. So a story that came to mind. You just said on your stream that you were working at a grocery store, and it's very similar. I didn't have sex until I was 22 too.
Nice.
And you were like, all right, it's time for me to have sex. So you went to your coworkers and you're like, okay, I want to find someone to have sex with. Like, does anybody want to have sex? And like, that's the type of like shit that I would do. And, but like, I didn't do that specifically. What I did was, and I went to college a bit younger than 22. I asked my people in my dorm. So I was really into figure drawing and drawing people. And so, and I was also like a horny, like 20-year-old. And I was like, so does anybody want to pose nude for me? Oh man, I'm gonna have some water.
Do it.
And I just asked around very, like I wasn't like pressuring anyone to do it at all. And I ended up having to go down to the, like I got like a number of complaints about me. That was one of them, I think. And then there was like some other complaints about me for very benign shit. But when a part of that though is when I went to college was the peak of the, first of all, it was an art school, and it was the peak of the Me Too kind of era. And I think all of these blue-haired feminists were looking through the side of their eye at men. And so everything I did, like another thing was I made jokes. I was just trying to be like funny and likable. And I made jokes like I repeated a joke that I had heard on Tosh.0 about how runners have to put lube on their nipples sometimes because their nipples will chafe. And that's like a real fact. And it's just like a funny factoid. And like, I got told that I was like making people uncomfortable and shit. And I was like, horrified. It was like really a harrowing experience for me.
What do you think it was? Like, really?
Like I really think that it was just okay. There's a lot of things. It was the specific people that I was around. Art school is usually full of socially rejected people. And they don't know how to fit in yet. And I was in a point where I felt like a social butterfly. Excuse me. And I came off pretty strong, and I was very confident. and I was uh, not. They like beat the meekness into me. That's how I feel. And
Interesting.
then I had to
Yeah.
beat it out again.
How old were you at this time? Around 22, you said?
No, 22,
20?
22 is like when probably 22 or 23 is when I had sex for the first time, but this is 19 to 23-ish when I was in college. So,
Okay. Do you okay, I want to ask you like an incredibly blunt question, but it's like I feel like you can handle the question. Okay.
yeah, I'm pretty sure
Did
where you're going.
Well, I'm what I'm thinking about is the data and how I would say like why something happens to men versus women. And I will say as like a neurodivergent girl who definitely stands out and isn't a normal girl, I also don't fuck normal people. Like I'm not attractive to normies. I'm only attractive to like slightly weird people who appear normal but like absolutely are not. And that's why they like me because I'm the girl that they can have the weird things with, do the weird things with, right? Because I'm very like open and stuff. But I will tell you that I wonder how you were perceived even in art school. Were you considered the weird one, even like aesthetically or energetically? Like, were you even weird in art school?
Yeah, I was definitely weird in art school, and I didn't fit in like anywhere in any of the groups. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, I was weird in high school too.
Hmm.
But I mean, the way that I was weird, because I'm an only child, and I mean, I think it's like pathological that I fill the role of weird. Uh,
What's the correlation there?
it's like I was designed to be weird. Like
Because you were older?
no, not because I was older,
Oh.
because I'm an only child. So I
Oh,
feel
older child. I thought you said older child.
no
Only child.
only child,
Interesting.
and also maybe some other things related to my childhood, but I feel like I fill the niche of weird, and I didn't even dress weird. I didn't even dress weird when I first went to art school, and I left art school dressing really weird. I became like a femboy to like fit in.
Love it. Oh, to fit in.
Like almost, yeah. Like I wanted to become a woman by the time I got out of there. Uh,
Damn.
yeah.
Why do you have a video of me playing in the background?
That'd be funny.
It is funny. It is a bit funny. I just noticed myself in the background. I was like, I know those hand gestures. That's me. That's pretty funny. I will say in high school, I was weird. I was homeschooled until I was 15, and then I went to public school, and I was a drama kid right away, and I did well in English and did bad in math. And I was a weird kid, but I have a weird kid energy that like makes everyone want to talk to me. And I think it's because I'm a safe space for the normies. Truly, I really think this is what it is. Everyone will tell me their problems, and I just don't overreact normally until they ask me my genuine opinion, which is I always struggle with. I will always struggle with this on the internet or in real life when people are say like, Brittany, what do you think I should do with my horrible ex situation? And I'm like, well, this is what you do. Like, I don't freak out when you tell me your weirdness. But if you ask me to take a stance, well, obviously, I think you're weird, bro. Like, let's change that. But so I think people feel safe coming to me and telling me these things, but I'm also the weird kid. So even on YouTube, there was a theme for a long time with my audience where I was like everyone's secret YouTuber, where they're like, oh, Brittany, I can't let people know I watch you, but I love your content. It's transformed my life. And it's because when very normal people, like the general public, sees this space on the internet, I don't care how many people in the space don't realize it about themselves. I can't even show these videos to my normie friends. They don't have these conversations.
Yeah.
They're not we're not late night hosts. We're not like digestible to the public. We're only niche. So when everyone on this side of the internet and even the debate or commentary space is like, I have 1 million followers, so I'm normal. No, you're not. You're not. When I'm thinking normal, I'm thinking about people who aren't even having these conversations in the first place. So even my family, I've been thinking about my whole family as neurodivergent, but not literally. But my own family feels so normal to me. But in contrast to other normal families, we're obviously the oddball. We obviously stand out. We're obviously very different. And yet it's always been our strength since we're so individualistic. But I think there's a level to which the weirdness is either an advantage or a disadvantage to you. So for me, it's been both. I've literally felt the consequence of it and the reason I'm ahead because of it.
Right. Okay. So I felt both too. In high school, it
Mm,
worked very well for me. I was weird.
mm-hmm.
But I was weird, and I fit in with every group. And like I said in yesterday, like I was asked to prom by like one of the
Yeah.
popular like pretty girls,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just something about art school at that time that I felt it was just that I was a dude.
Mm.
And it, yeah, it wasn't
I could see that.
good for me.
Yeah, the bubble, well, at the time too, like even in the BDSM dungeons and queer spaces, male people became sort of on edge. There was an edgeness to even our communities that were really, really accepting, and men had to perform a certain amount of like progressive energy in order to be sort of seen as like not a threat. And so it was even in our progressive communities, because I've been on the internet the whole time. There obviously was it online, but it was happening in real life too, because most of them are chronically neurodivergent people who are online as well. Like again, I mostly just hang out with like obviously underground groups because I grew up expecting to be normal, and then I was just like I would like to be in these groups, the groups that like where I can be myself, which is quote unquote, and what is normal, right? It's just like I'm using it generally here. It doesn't mean anything. But I think that makes sense that you were going through that. Now the question is, does it impact you now, that lived experience?
Yeah, of course.
In what way?
Um, well, it was very confusing then, and it messed me up. But
Mm,
I've learned to be more resilient to that and to be more differentiated, sort of. Uh, hold on. I
mhm.
remember I'm multitasking at the moment. I remember being in college and went on a Tinder date, and we went to a poetry slam,
Okay.
and hold on. I'm sorry.
Perfect. I'll blow my nose. My allergies are crazy.
Okay, so I was at a poetry slam, and I remember it was like a big competition poetry slam event,
Hmm.
and it was being judged by the volume of the audience applause for everybody. And there was a bunch of different rainbow. There was a rainbow coalition of people trying like going up and doing their poetry. There like was probably 8 participants, and one of
Hmm.
them was a white dude, and the rest weren't. And they were all comparable. They were all pretty decent at slam poetry, like, but the white dude had way lower of applause. And
Mm.
when they started judging, he broke down crying and ran out of the room.
Oh my gosh.
And someone else went out after him, but that stuck with me too. I feel like in these in those progressive bubbles circles, it just was a really bad time to be a dude.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the reality is like I I think all things are happening at all times. So no matter who you are, what you are, it's always bad to be that thing somewhere. So the question is like, what's the moment in time of history you're living in? Like we're all living history, right? And so I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, what am I and what am I in regards and am I the bad thing this year or am I the good thing this year?
Right.
And then it's
Well,
gonna and then where am I, right?
well,
Hmm.
so what I think a lot of men took from that was that now they are like watching Fresh and Fit or looking up to Andrew Tate, and what I've gone in a different direction where I am like critical of gender and stuff, but I
Mm.
don't want to be like I still want equality, and I don't want to lean back on old shit. I haven't given up on being a progressive, even though progressives in that moment seem to have given up on me. So
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, I always say I'm progressive spiritually, but not politically, because the political groups are about winners and losers, and
yeah,
like that's not helpful. So, but in my heart of hearts, in my own marriage, like gender isn't a thing that really comes up here. Like, obviously, we are aware of it. We're not dumb, but like also when we're talking about who's responsible for what, it's not like you're the man and I'm the woman. Like, that's not a conversation that needs to happen in this marriage. And I think that's really hard for people to believe because they'll always believe like, oh, well, you just don't know, Brittany. You actually secretly want this. Or even my mom, who's so well intentioned, is like, oh, I know you don't want kids right now. You're off it, but like, it's just because you're working so much. And I was like, yeah, as if I don't have like an absolute choice about what I do, right? I've always just done what I've wanted. And so the idea that I'm not having kids right now because I'm working so much and my husband isn't is sort of like ignoring the fact that I've always done what I've wanted. So don't you think I would just like say like, "Hey, I want to be a mom now," and then do it? Or like it's not like I'm trapped, right? But the trap is the gender. So if they think, "Oh, because I think they feel trapped by their gender expectation, they're assuming I'm trapped by mine." But I'm really saying that the idea is like gender never played a role in whether or not I was working or wanted kids. I just as a consciousness asked myself if I wanted to do that, if I want to raise another consciousness. And right now, like that's not something I'm interested in doing. And it doesn't, gender is not coming into it. What I'm saying is like this is about bigger than gender. Raising a person is bigger than gender, or at least should be. But to most people, it's just not, right? It's attached to that gender expectation.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm very distracted talking to you.
I see that.
I my stream is lagging.
Yeah. Do you want to take like a tech break and figure it out?
Yeah, but I have no idea.
Is it your, I don't know, I'm a boomer.
I'm at
Uh,
my frame rate is fine, but my upload rate is fucked. Oh,
you need
it
to
went.
reset your router?
No, it's not that. Oh, fuck, dude, Jesus. Um. Anyway, yeah, I think gender is in these social categories are how we treat people. So, like, I don't want to be any. I think identity in general is something that's forced upon us, and I don't want. Some people annoyingly relish in an identity, and they
Mm,
use that to find a place in the world, and they
hmm.
let that define them. And I think that's like an easy way to be. Um, and I think that because of that fact, it makes it harder for people who want to be more than an identity.
Sure. Like I would say, well, I would say we always choose the path of least resistance. And so even for me, like I say that I choose the path of least resistance for Brittany, but anyone who did my life would say that it's like pretty hard. I'm just like, it is because like they do default to these identities, which is great. Like I tried very hard to do that myself. And I just didn't fit into a bubble that encompassed all of who I was. Cause I always say there's like 8 different Britneys. Like the core self of myself has like, what do I do? Do I go and hang out with a Syrian Brittany or a queer Brittany? Or because like those two groups don't hang out, you know what I mean? So which identity is the most dominant? Is it the female Brittany? Well, then like where does my husband fit into that? Or like, oh, what about this Brittany and like this? So I'm just like, okay, where can I be all of the Britneys at once? And it's like, oh, in my own bubble, and then I'll visit everyone else's.
Yeah, your mindset about this is very different from mine. Because while I
Hmm.
completely agree with you, and in my philosophy on like how to approach myself,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think about it like that very much. It's just
Mm-hmm.
I think about it in terms of what other people are seeing, and I like to think of things in terms of. See, I feel like you want to do a very progressive thing where you try to, with your own perspective, help everybody be their own special snowflake to like you know, like actually like try to do that. But I feel the way I look at things, I like to look at things in terms of systems. And so like family systems is like one like type of like systems thinking, like how, like a dynamic within your family, but also within society you can apply the same logic to different social groups. And and being a man is like a specific role in the family, and it doesn't mean anything about you. It means the role that you're filling. And so I usually, my analysis isn't often taking place on the level of the individual. I'm often thinking about, because with the individual I have a very different, very selfish way of thinking about things. I'm just trying to figure myself out.
Mm-hmm.
Is that one or two behavior or what? Like,
Well, it's not one behavior. I would say that I don't really engage in systems because when I try to, I don't believe them because I think they're inherently selfish. And I think everyone's in denial of that because we're trying to make the system work for us. That's why we're trying to find a place within the system, which is why you can't have it. You can't have individuals in a system, even though systems are made of individuals. But what you can have is individuals within a system that works for those individuals. And then you bubble hop into different places, right? Like if you're in Dubai, you're not functioning the same way you are in Kentucky, America. Like that's just different, but it's still individuals within a system. And I will say, obviously, I am also a eldest daughter and I am also the second mom and I am also all of these things. And I play roles in people's lives as Brittany in the way that they perceive me. And I have to be aware of that as well, which is why, again, I like need to put down boundaries because people often think I only fulfill that role and they forget there's a whole other side of Brittany that has other things going on. But I will say that I moved away from systems because I wasn't benefiting anybody or those systems. Like I've done activism, I've done canvas work, I've done so much for different places, and it just never does anything fulfilling for me. And I will say my channel does hopefully target individuals who want to like learn how to live within the bubbles. But even when I have a caller who's a 2 and they're like, should I be a 4? And I'm like, I don't know, bro. And we talk about it. So that would make them a 3. They still decide to be 2s and go back into their bubbles because it's more of a vibe. So at the end of the day, like my work is of course centered around the individual, but I don't lose the reality that we live in systems. Like how could I?
yeah, actually, I think that my perspective is all about destroying the systems. So it's not like I'm trying to like if I was trying to live within it, I would be the Andrew Tate guy. I would be the guy. So, but I resent that. I want to destroy that. I don't want to be that. And so, like that's when I like you to me are a very great representative for women, because you are like very feminine and stuff. I mean, I'm foisting onto you like all this shit that you like you don't need, but you are also, you're a lot of things that women aren't usually expected to be. Like you're like doing intellectual, like there's not, I don't know, there's just you're carving out your own space. You're an individual. Like you're not just doing like makeup shit or something specifically like for women or something. You're
Only because I'm not good at it, bro. I just suck at it, bro. I wish I could have been a makeup girl. I just suck at it. But no, this is I do what
well, that's part of it.
Easy.
That's part of it, though. The fact that you have that attitude is part of it, and like that, like yeah. So, I just think that engaging with the systems is the best way to undermine them. Like, I mean, I can, maybe not the best way. I don't know. I haven't thought about this particular clash. Usually this particular clash I frame in a different context and different type of conversation. Usually it's because someone's arguing with me and they will use the different framework. So they will say, so I will give a statement that is very personal or very like system based. Mm-hmm. And it's like the classic example for me is the pull yourself up by the bootstraps example. That is true. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps is very good advice on a personal level. Mm-hmm. But it undermines the discussion on a, like a
Right.
systemic level. It totally undermines
Right.
it. And they're both very valid, but they are
Hmm.
important in different contexts. And usually I'm just trying to make that distinction altogether because I do
Hmm.
respect both. So I
Hmm.
don't know where I fall in regards. I guess I just respect both. I don't
Yeah,
know
I mean, I
why
think,
I'm so
yeah.
focused. I think I just because of my experience in college and stuff, maybe because of my parents, I just have like all this pent up resentment towards women. That's why I like you so much because you break some of those molds, and that's what I want. I want that so. I just want women to just should to be free. I like I literally can't get hard unless a woman is like empowered.
Sure.
I like physiologically need it, and so I think that's why I am rebelling. So
Mm, you said something in your video yesterday, which I think you said something like, we need to teach women how to say no, or, tell these like autistic guys, like, absolutely not,
they need it.
basically.
They need to hear it.
Hmm. Yeah, so I think here's the deal. So I work with like a lot of people on the spectrum, especially some of my male callers. God bless them, they're my favorites. And they do have insane issues with boundaries. And I have to be like, absolutely not. Like, I've literally been like, hey, you're doing it right now. And they're like, wait, what? And I'm like, you're doing it right now. Like, you're staring at my tits. And they're just like, oh my God. I was like, this is why you get kicked out of groups. You have problems. And so, like, I'll talk very bluntly. We'll talk about philosophy and, like, why do you think you're doing this right now? Like, what is your brain doing? And they're like, I don't know. I just noticed your tits. And so I focus on it. And I was like, right. So let's talk about boundaries. And like, I've got people who just like, I get it. So the reason I think I can do this work as a woman is because I, first of all, have 8 brothers. Okay. And I watched boys try to navigate the dating world. And I watched people, sort of myself included, like, research and realize, like, okay, there's some issues here with expectation of behavior depending on the bubble. And even in the BDSM community, the weird social guys who would like hug the wall or stare at you at the dungeon or like walk up to you and be like, I really like you. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about boundaries. Look, I will do this because I'm a mom. That's why I do it. I don't do it because I'm a girl. I do it because I'm a mom. Like, I'm like, hey, you are my son, and I absolutely think this is inappropriate. But that energy is works really well on bottoms and switches, and it doesn't work on men who are like hyped up in the toxic masculinity because they can't allow it. They won't be lectured by a mom because they hate their mothers.
I hate my
But they
mom,
won't
but
allow it. They won't
I'm a
allow
bottom
it.
because I hate my mom.
Ah, interesting. So you're that one. Yeah, that's a category of bottom. There you go.
um,
But no, I think ultimately, like, I don't look, I was raised like a boy. My dad literally says he raised me to be a boy, right? And so I recognize that gender difference between like my sister and I. That's why I always say like I'm a boy, but I'm not a boy, but I'm a boy. I get it. But also I never will understand what it's like to truly be a dude because I went through the world being perceived as a girl.
yeah.
You know what I mean? But I do think they need boundaries. But I think, look, ultimately, my personality allows me to do this more than anything else. Like at that grocery store where I was like, who wants to have sex with me? There was a boss I had who came to me and she said, Brittany, you need to stop talking about your sex life at work. I was like, where'd you hear me talk about it? I've never talked to you about it. She goes, well, somebody else was talking about your sex life. I was like, well, that's not my problem. And she goes, what do you mean? I was like, well, I wasn't in the room. I never told you it. And she looked at me and she goes, you need to not be sexual at work. I was like, have you ever seen me be sexual at work? She's like, no. And I was like, okay, well, we're done here. Thank you. And I like walked away and I'm like, I'm making like $7 an hour. What are you going to yell at me for? Like, and ultimately, look, this personality I have is because I refuse to engage with people that are trying to use the system either against me or two, threatening me that I'm going to lose my $7 an hour job. Like, ma'am, please, okay? So ultimately, it's like, what game are you playing? You're playing a game as an individual within the system, but the system is the one you're in. Systems change depending on your location. Games change based off of the bubble you're in. So I just think people need to be more aware of the game they're playing. And also, like, people need help, but in ways that is exhausting. It is exhausting dealing with autistic men who
Yeah.
literally won't understand, like, you're being socially inept right now. And I'm like, hello, and this is why you're alone at 40. What are you doing? And they're just like, yeah, but like, I feel like people don't accept me. Like, even the autist groups will kick these autists out. That's how autistic they are. But it's not their autism. I refuse to believe it's their autism.
It,
I don't. It's their belief around their own narrative. They're usually pessimists and they're usually very negative.
it's where their autism is directed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing that you just said stuck out to me, so I'm gonna autistically pay attention to that one thing for really. But like you said that it's not because you're a woman, it's because you're a mom. I would like to add something to make that better. Like something that a creative writing teacher, male creative writing teacher, told me in high school. He said on Mother's Day, he hates Mother's Day because men can be moms too, and I always liked that.
Yeah. That's pretty funny. Are you talking about like wait, what are you referencing actually?
It's just
Maybe I don't get it.
something a teacher said.
Oh.
I don't, maybe he was referencing something, but I just always took that to be, because when you think of Father's Day, you think of like power tool, beer, whatever, and you don't think of like an intimate parent. Like even inside, that's how I took it, and I've internalized it like that. Maybe he was, but like even in psychology, I've been listening to people talk, people with PhDs and shit talk about psychology, and there is so much stuff about like there's a big difference in your development between your relationship with your mom and with your dad. And I don't think it's like that's like because you're hard coded, because we just have different relationships with our mom than we do with our dad, and that's like why I want to have I want to have a really close relationship with my kids. I don't want to be that distant like guy with the beer in his hand that makes jokes once in a while.
Well, that's what breaking generational curses is about, right? Like even my partner and I, when we talk about whether or not we want to bring a consciousness into the universe or adopt, we're talking about our own parents all the time. It's really not a conversation about us. It's a conversation about our parents. What did we see our parents do? How were our fathers to us? What are some of the disconnects our mothers had? Like, what are we going to continue forward doing because we saw it mimicked in our childhood? But I do think everyone has a different, like that's, as a girl on OF, trust me, that's the first question I get is like, what's your relationship with your dad? I was like, great, dude. My dad's like my homie, but we're not friends. Like he's still my dad, but like we're very close, probably closer than most people are with their dads, or like, unless you're a girl dad, then you're probably doing the same things, like talking about your period and like who you're dating with your dad. Like that's definitely a conversation I have with my dad. Or like if I'm having issues, but at the same time, because there's like a Middle Eastern privacy wall up, I don't have a white dad, right? Like I'm not a white person in that way. Like I don't have my girlfriends who have like white dads. Like they have a very different relationship with their dads. They're close, but they're almost like they'll call their dad daddy. And I'm like, okay, everyone stop. Because unless he's spanking you in the bedroom, like we're not using that language. Like I would never call my dad daddy. Like there's no fucking way. But like my white girlfriends, they do that. And I was like, see, we're having different relationships. So even in that case, like I would argue that you have to really know where you are in the bubble. It's not about gender. It's about culture. It's about expectation. It's about gender, yes, but like the way you perceive it and the way you're treated because of it. Like tell me this, how ironic is this being raised in a home where my parents are like, we raised you to run the business. We raised you as a boy. Also, when are you going to quit your job and be a stay-at-home mom? And I'm like, which one is it? And they're like, both. Do both. And I'm like, what? Do both.
That's feminism.
I don't even want to be a working mom. Like like if I'm a working mom, my husband's 100% not getting a career. He's staying home because like one of us is staying home, and it's not gonna be me, even though I work from home. It's not. I'm not the one quitting. I have the career. He has the job. Do you get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And the person with the job stays home. The person with the career pursues it. That's kind of how I view it. Yeah. But like being raised in a home that was confusing in that way, and it was gender based, because even they're confused. Oh, my grandma's worked. The women in my family work. But yet they all say they adhere to like typical gender roles. And I'm like, the women in our families work. What are we playing? What's this game we're playing?
Yeah. I think that's going to be a big part of what I'm going to talk about. Like you're kind of like hyping me up. And I'm going to fix my bit rate and everything. It's going to be great. But you're like hyping me up for like later, because like one of the things I think that, and I have a much more resent-oriented, like place that I'm coming from, like a shittier place. But it's the same thing. I think that feminism, you know, like it's such a cliche to say it like this, but as we have liberated women, we're telling them to be everything, and we're telling them that we're telling everybody that these things are bad, these things that men do are bad, but also some of the things that this is where I was coming from. Like some of the things that women do under that system are also bad, but we haven't confronted that. Like, and some things of those are bad for women. Some of those things are bad for men. And some of those things perpetuate some of the stuff. But we don't want to focus on that side because we want to empower women, and to focus on that feels too shitty. And we're so conflict avoidant that we don't want to go there, because we're like, okay, we're going to pick a scapegoat and it's going to be the men. And that's all we're willing to talk about right now. And it's been a little helpful, but now it's stopped being helpful in my opinion. We have to be critical of women now. That's what we have to do.
But remember, like, there's always a new feminist being born who needs to go through the journey, and a new manosphere guy who's being born and has to go through the journey. So it's like, it's only bad now because now the group of us that are past that need something different, but the group that's still beginning still needs that original path. Like, everyone needs to go through their I hate men, I hate women stage. And that's I'm being a little hyperbolic, like everyone. But like, you go through a stage and then you get out of the stage. But I will say, one of the disadvantages that feminists made, and this is why I left the feminist bubble, was they forgot, like, men never had it all. Men never had it all. Fathers miss out on opportunities to see and raise their children when they are dedicated to work. I'm really lucky. I had my dad every night and every weekend. I had a father that prioritized his family and worked. So I'm really lucky in that way. Like, my dad didn't have a job that took him away. My dad would never have done that. He would have always made decisions to make sure he was home. So we knew we had a father growing up, but still I missed out on, I had more time with my mother, as we all did, right? Because she was a stay-at-home mom for those years. We were homeschooled, and, you know, so again, like, I think feminists forget, like, men never had it all. So this idea, like, I can be a working mom and a mom and a girl boss, and it's just like, men never had that. Even Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, like him or hate him, says, like, the one thing that was the downfall of his success was he never was with his children, and now he's making it up to them. But he couldn't have been a father and a successful businessman. It just wasn't going to happen. And so I think that's something people aren't paying attention to, which is why I'm critical of people in positions of privilege, like, not admitting that they're not spending time with their children. Like, we see it. We have, like, a fatherless culture. Everyone's talking about men need their fathers. And modern day men are continually showing they don't want to be present in their kids' lives while complaining that women keep taking their kids away from them. Well, then pick your kids, because I don't see you doing that. I see you picking your careers. And then women think that's what I need to do. You need to all stop having kids. Either choose to have a kid and be with that child in some capacity, or don't have kids. You're allowed to not have kids. But people do it anyways because they're, like, checking a little thing off a box. Boop, kids.
I think that you're framing there, well, everything you said is right. I think a part of your framing is a bit toxic because the part where the men, they want to have their kids, that's the part. That's the good part.
But do they want their kids, or do they say they want their kids because it sounds good?
I think at that point, they really do.
Then the action should follow. Then I should see
I don't
some
think
action.
they understand what it means, but I think they want it. They don't know
It's not
how.
good enough for me.
They don't know how.
It's not good enough.
Yeah, but they want it, but they don't know how.
Okay, well then listen to the people who are telling you how, but they don't want to listen because they want to come up with it on their own, or they don't want to read the books.
It's not. No. No, you're this is okay. Now here's some resentment from you. Okay, good, because it's not that they don't want to listen. I don't think that's true. I think it's because they feel like no one will listen to them, and like you'll listen, but most people really won't, and they feel like they have to be like the Andrew Tate, like asshole, and they don't. There is no motherly figure that is. A role model for them at all. They don't know what to do.
Please keep in mind that Andrew Tate also doesn't tuck his kids into bed and literally says that you should have kids with multiple women around the world and send them child support. So even being like Andrew Tate is the mistake. He doesn't tuck his kids into bed every night.
Yeah. So,
like, again, it's like people, it sounds like this. I really want a six pack, but I'm never going to the gym. It's like, I don't have time to talk to you.
Has Nick Cannon talked about, like, because like
him too, like, and Elon Musk.
He needs to, like, it would be good if he would, like, speak, because he fucking knows, he has to know he's not a good dad, and he seems like he's trying, but he can't, and it's impossible at this point. He has too many fucking kids, and he only has so much time. Like, he can't even be a good dad, even if he wants to, and it's shitty. He's stretched thin. If he wants to be a good dad, it's impossible for him.
You do the best you can, and that's the problem, right? Is everyone like that's fine. Like humans are gonna human, right? So like we do the best we can. And the question is like if you want to be exceptional and you want to break generational curses and you want to be thoughtful, like again, people will come to me and say like Elon Musk is a good dad. I was like, let's define what a good dad is. Like if we're going off data or statistics or like whatever we're having the conversation around, like what is a good dad? For some people, it's a dad who pays your bills. Even though studies show that kids don't care about a paycheck, they wanted the presence of their father, specifically boys. So again, it's like, what is it being a good dad? Ultimately, doing your best. But your best isn't good enough if you're going to brag about being the exception. So if you're an exceptional dad, you're the dad who's home every night. You're the dad who's there and present in your kid's life. You're the dad that kids confide in and want to tell things to. To be the exceptional dad, you would have to be the dad that is actually someone your kids want to grow old with, trust, see
But
you
they
on your
don't know
deathbed.
how. They don't know how. They want that.
Right.
They want. I
So
think a lot of
again,
men actually want that. They just don't know what that even looks like. Because when they get it, then they're like, diaper. They don't know what the
right.
fuck is going on. But I think they, in their heart, they want it though. I see it.
I think it's not enough to want it. You have to need it, and you have to transform them into a person who gets it, and that includes like what? Go ahead.
I'm just saying that because they want it, it means they are being failed because nobody's teaching them. They have no role models. They need to one thing actually. They need to be willing to look up to women as role models, which is a problem. But
It is the problem. It is a part of the problem, but also they need to be willing to like again, it is about you the individual. It's not about the systems at that point. At that point when you say I, you're making an I statement. Now it's not a we statement. You're saying how do I become a good father? Okay, what's the game that's being played? What is the system at hand? What is my ethnicity? What is my gender? What is my, my relationship to gender? What is my income? What is my capabilities, right? So when people say like I want to be a good dad, great. So how do you follow through? How do women end up following through better than men in a way? Because there is a societal expectation that kids will end up with the mother. Like even men make that a possibility by leaving their kids. And at the end of the day, if you want to fight for your kids in a way, you have to think about how to do that within the system. And then you have to stop having babies with women that are going to take away your kids. And like, so it starts with
yeah.
you. It all comes down to you. You have to pick the right partners to procreate with. You have to pick the
But
right people to socialize with. And I know what you're saying, but you're giving a system solution to an individual problem.
no, I'm giving I'm not giving a system solution to an individual problem. I'm giving a system analysis. I'm not no because on an individual level, like if I was speaking to, so here's the thing, if I was speaking to an individual, I figured out my thing about before. If so, your content is speaking to individuals, and I am generally speaking to systems. Sometimes I speak to individuals, but it's not, neither one is like wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when I talk about systems, who I'm talking to isn't those men. I'm talking to you. I'm trying to make you understand them. I'm not because if I wanted to get through to them, I would not say the same thing. I would say what you're saying actually. But like, well, actually, not what you're saying, because I like, but like closer.
I would say I know them better than you do because I know they're not ready to change. I know they don't want it. They don't really want it. They think they want it.
Yeah.
People who really want it, they change. People who think they want it, they repeat patterns.
Actually, well, I guess that depends on how you define it. But if you define that, if you go by those terms, I think that people almost never actually really want anything, because
Right.
I don't think that's true. I think that people actually really want things, but we don't know how. Like a lot of people will come into legal trouble, or they'll like be the victim of medical malpractice or something fucked up, and they don't know how to advocate for themselves, and they just don't, they become defeated, and they want to, and they'll even try to advocate, but they don't know what channels to go through. They don't know how to do it. They just end up wasting money and time, and they don't know what they're doing. And some people do know what they're doing, and the difference between the ability to make those changes in that situation is knowledge.
Yes. I agree with you. I see knowledge as a tool, and it's a tool you have to pick up yourself. And yes, there are avenues in which it would be very difficult, but as again, my bias, my bubble, as somebody who's like had callers who have come from completely like impoverished backgrounds, who are on like Section 8 housing benefits, who are struggling, they're able for some reason to look at their environment and say like, oh, I could be different from this. They have to have that epiphany. They have to realize like, I can be different than the way that I was raised, which means I can seek out information